We're going to look after it. Have you no respect? He's 92 years old. What's wrong with you? You absolute fascist scum! Eric, he's 92 years old! He's gonna die, you're gonna kill him!
Get as many people as possible to realize this. It's ridiculous if Julian Assange dies in the United States.
But we won't give up.
It's terrible. But if he dies here too, and you don't live 175 years in any country, so he dies too, that would be the same in Britain. So in fact, it's also in the interest of the British, I mean, I'm including, of course, I'm saying the British bourgeoisie.
So as you can see, it looks like Eric, they've drugged him. In the middle of the day.
Free Eric Levy! He had acting against his will!
You want to free the migrants?
I remember I was 13 years old, telling my family, the medicine they're giving him is stopping yes. And people don't listen when you're young and mean.
I know.
Now all my life,
and they look
don't deal with doctors. Don't deal with it.
Alright Keith, so tell us what the situation is with Eric.
So Eric Levy is a 94-year-old man that's been out protesting all his life. They have him inside the hospital now, I think it's for about 6 to 8 weeks. He went in there with a fall to his head. He had a little bump. While he was in there, they gave him pneumonia. They gave him bed sores, which caused blood infections. They basically nearly killed him in there. While he's in there, he can't kind of stand. They're not letting him out of the bed. And they were feeding him like Muller rice and jelly and Angel Delight. No nutrition, so he couldn't get better. So I started to learn, so I was bringing him in soup to try and get him to feel better. Within 4 days, he was sitting up, feeding himself. Doctors were saying he was non-compos mentis, that he couldn't make up his own decision to leave the hospital. That wasn't the case at all. The man can tell you all about his life, what he was doing, making videos with me, putting him up online. So he's been asking us, begging us to get him out of hospital. He doesn't want to be in there. He's sick, he has a heart valve problem, but you die of a stroke or a heart attack. You don't put a man down like a dog by injecting him with end-of-life care and telling us that he's non-compos mentis, when in actual fact, Joe Biden can't string a sentence together. This man can tell you all about his life. Eric's been locked inside, been arrested outside the Old Bailey, outside Westminster Magistrates, all this. And unfortunately...
Protesting, right?
Yeah, he's like, this man protests for everybody, the underdog, people that need people's help. And these doctors, they become what would you call passive-aggressive to us. They're telling us lies all the time and not letting Eric out. He's begged us. He's been in there asking us to call the police to let him out.
I mean, Eric's got people who stand up for him. But most of the patients in here, well, a lot of the patients in here won't have anyone else. So this sort of persuasion that I've heard about of the patient, you know, don't you think it's in your best ideas? Can't you imagine? You know what I mean? If they want to get an old person who's not 1,000% clear to do what they think, so they have a little meeting and say, well, we think it's best to send him to palliative care, for example. And then they'll come and try and persuade that person to do that. And unless there's people around them saying something else, and that's the path you're going to go down.
And I've even found that even when you go in and you speak to them, they kind of brush you off with this passive-aggressive that you don't know as good as us. We're doctors, we're professionals. But I can see a man, when he can't lift up his hands and feed himself, and after 4 days of eating soup, he's sitting up and feeding himself and back to himself. Like I had grandparents, you know, that had dementia and whatever else like that. They were in my house for a very long period of time. I know what dementia is. I know when people are non-compos mentis or cannot look after themselves. Just logically, I can see Eric is not in that state. But yet doctors were saying this is the state he's in. They were asking him yesterday, the day before I went in, and they said, like, do you know who the gentleman is? Now, they were behind the curtain. So they were just asking, do you know who the gentleman is? But Eric can't hear very well. He can only hear in one ear. So he's going, what? Who? I shouted out from the other thing. I said, what's my name, Eric? And he goes, oh, that's Keith. But they were going to write it down and say he didn't know who the gentleman was, you know. And I said, you have to be more specific with him, and you have to raise up your voice. Now, we found inside the hospitals, because of all these mandates that they gave the nurses, there aren't nurses on the wards. There may be one nurse, a lead nurse, and all the rest are just care workers, obviously on less wages. And remember, I think all of that was planned, deliberate. What? Why now? It's before, if you went into a police station, right, you would be called, a doctor would be called if you needed medication. That went from a nurse, from a doctor now to a nurse. The nurse would then ring the doctor. Then it went from a nurse down to a paramedic. The whole system is being changed that way, slowly but surely.
It seems to me that the whole app-based societal control, again, emanates and starts with the hospital and with healthcare now.
Everyone with their Fitbits and their...
Yeah, that's right. How many steps have you taken today?
Yes. So the only interaction that I've had with these people is lies. So they've taken me into a room, one of the matrons on the wards, taken me into a room and explained, I'm really sorry, Keith. I can see that you really care about Eric. And I know you're not next of kin, so we can't really tell you anything about his medical care. But he's very sick, and we're thinking of end of life. And I said, really? And she goes, yes.
Well, all right, he's what, 94, isn't he?
Yes, of course.
So end of life could happen at any time.
Listen, the man could die tomorrow. He could die next year or 5 years later. The situation is that they want to give him a drug to kill him within 2 or 3 days' time because
presumably,
he's so sick.
Presumably the Queen was quite ill recently.
Oh, yeah.
And any doctor could have turned around and said, we're thinking about end of life, but it's not exactly the conversation that happens, is it?
No, of course not. It depends on obviously who you are. For me, I see it that Eric would cost too much money for the NHS. To allow him out of hospital, back to his own home, you'd need an occupational therapist, 24-hour care, so you need care inside the hospitals, which I don't think that they have anymore.
Now they say that someone called on the ward. So it's quite clear that the arguments have been made over the last few weeks by his closest friends that he should have been out of hospital and at a home environment is clearly much safer for him. And therefore the idea also that the doctors have been suggesting, and it's cunning, you know, with an old man like that who has difficulty hearing, and sometimes he's not following everything, but other times he's totally lucid. So you can imagine the way in which some hospital doctors, thinking perhaps they're doing the right thing, but having got so used to the power they've been exercising over people without any questioning over 2 years, when they come and speak to someone who's 94 years of age, and they've already discussed what they think the care should be, the tendency will be for them to try and persuade that person to adopt the position that they think is right. Now, the position they think are right may be governed by all sorts of factors that are not individualised. They're general bureaucratic decisions that a doctor and nurses and a hospital will make about people's care. And if you like, that's the biggest problem we've got in Britain and probably internationally with care now in hospitals, is the way in which it's been turned into a bureaucratic machine, serving government edicts or serving the financial interests of those who control the hospitals. Because the hospitals have been de facto privatised over the last few years. Healthcare has become an instrument of power and an instrument of monopolisation of wealth that comes out of healthcare. And so they've transformed healthcare from something that I knew as a kid, where you go and see a doctor, the doctor-patient relationship is a one-on-one relationship, and they took a lot of care about knowing their patients, into something where you are segregated from the hospitals, you're segregated from the doctor. The nurses and so on are constantly changing. The level of quality staff who have direct contact over a long period of time with the patient diminishes. And so you tend to get bureaucratic decisions, and then of course after you make bureaucratic decisions, you get bureaucratic errors. And the bureaucratic errors lead to injury, lead to death, lead to mismanagement and mistreatment, which of course the individual has great difficulty challenging.
Eric Levy. Free 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 Eric Levy.
Set him free.
They did it all the way through the whole lockdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
They gave him the care homes. They're not supposed to give it outside a care home. It's supposed to be given inside a hospital.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, my mother, when she passed away 20 years ago, she was only 76. I know she was very ill, I told her.
Okay.
But I said, do not resuscitate on the bed. That's what they
Exactly.
put DNR.
Sure. How are you supposed to recover
As
it?
involuntary euthanasia. But I think it does go on quite a lot. With very ill people, very old people, anything like that, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm totally against it.
brilliant. Thank you very much. What was your name?
Mary.
Mary. Nice to meet you. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, you see it in the papers, I read it all the time, and it's a lot of friends and people, and some people want to go, they really are ill, they really want to go, they don't mind, but other people don't.
Yeah,
That didn't happen anyway, she just died peacefully, thankfully,
Oh.
with us by her side,
as it should be.
as it should be.
She died with the family by her side.
I think it'd be best that that man go home and let a carer come into him. Carers. I was a carer myself, one of my jobs in life, and a lot of my friends have 2 or 3 carers coming per day and staying at night with them.
Yeah,
That is a good idea.
that's
So the
care.
man can look after himself, and he's got his faculties about him. I don't see why some carers can't go to his home and look after him. If there's nobody else, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's what care would be.
You don't put them down before they die.
No, you go home and die. Or
Exactly.
something.
Or with your friends
I don't
around
think
you.
common sense.
They covered up the expulsion of people into care homes that killed tens of thousands of people. They didn't treat people who needed treatment for all sorts of other illnesses. They were fobbed off for 2 years. 2 years is a long time in the demographics and health of an entire country and the world. And we need to take back the hospitals under the control, or place the hospitals under democratic control and accountability. And that starts, of course, as Steve greatly pushed me to come here, it starts, of course, with individual patients. Eric is lucky that he's got a network of people who will stand up for him. Most patients who are 90 or 85 and so on, maybe they don't have people who can come down to the hospital and complain and protest about mistreatment. And so, you know, if Eric was to die tomorrow, and he may die tomorrow, he might die in a month, he might die in 6 months, he might die in 5 years or 10 years' time. But surely it's up to the individual patient where they want to die, where they want to recover, where they want to spend the last period of their lives. It's up to them where they should go. Not for doctors to try and persuade and cajole and twist and manipulate people into doing things that they don't want to do. So we're talking here about the basics of bodily autonomy, which have been the basic issues confronting mankind over the last 2 years. And unfortunately, the hospitals have been in the very epicenter of the manipulation of the world by big companies, by big pharma, by big tech to serve their interests. And that's why it's important for us to stand here today.
So the autonomy of the individual, particularly the older people, has been sort of stripped away from them, and the influence of their family in terms of being there and talking to the doctor or the nurse.
Well, you know, all during the whole lockdown thing, the Amnesty International did that report with the people in the care homes that were dying. And they weren't telling the families till after they were dead, and saying that they were dead of an injection that they gave them, you know? So we're kind of left in a situation, when you walk into NHS now, they say, oh no, we have different rules. But but there are no such things as rules or legislation. These are guidelines, yeah? And they're trying to force that upon people by saying, you can't this, you can't that. There is no compassion that I see anymore from these people. In actual fact, I just see lies and passive-aggressive behaviour. And that scares me.
This issue though, isn't it? Just to repeat, it's 2 years of almost unlimited power over decision over people's bodies.
Power hungry.
And that, whether they choose it is irrelevant. They do it, and it becomes a daily practice.
92 years old.
They're beating up a 92-year-old man.
Move out of the way now! Move! Out of the way now! Step back! What is wrong with you people? Don't you have any morals?
Let him go now.
Out the way, please! Thank you very much! He's 92.
Hiya, please like, share and subscribe and keep your eyes peeled for my upcoming channel The Director's Gut. Lyme's disease and SIBO are threatening my speech, so I'm writing an evolving health guide and asking for donations in order to fund treatment. The links are below. Cheers!